syllabus. So first, usually what we do is, and before going by the syllabus, one more thing I want to highlight is try to notice certain things. Like if you see the political science paper, most of us start with the Western political thought or part A of paper one, that is political theory, and we end up 70% of time reading only political theory. Will not have time to read paper two at all. So don't do this mistake because it is only 125 marks. So don't spend so much of time on only Western political thought and political theory. It is 125 marks, so divide your time also according to that. So spend equal amount of time on paper 1 part A, part B, and then paper 2 part A and part B. And second important thing, even in the final exam as well, when you see the question paper, everything will have equal weightage. So don't try to leave any component of the syllabus thinking that you will eliminate or you will you will choose an option, you will have an option to choose the questions. Trust me, UPSC just mixes and matches, so you never know which syllabus component will be made mandatory, which will be made optional question. And even when you feel that certain syllabus parts you are strong, even in those areas UPSC will make you like when you start writing about that, you will not get any information. So try to be like an average student in all the syllabus component instead of going behind one particular syllabus component. So try to pay attention for everything. So that is the important thing. So coming back to this, we'll start with political theory itself. So here again, Western political thought and Indian political thought are very important. Okay, so for Western political thought, I referred completely the CSB notes. So those are very good, and don't go beyond that. And for this also, as I said, if you refer the previous year questions, you will know till what areas you have to study. So use that and read the notes from there. Okay, and in Western political thought, the important thing is quotes. For Plato and Aristotle, there will be particular quotes. So try to write them, like whenever you're writing notes as well. And one more important thing, if you have time, prepare notes for each of the syllabus component, your own notes. That will be very, very beneficial for the exam and for the revision as well. Okay. So even if you have already concise notes made during the classroom, still make notes out of that notes. Okay, it should be something like a rough sketch. If you are going to write an essay, how would you prepare the skeleton? So similarly, you have to prepare notes for each of the syllabus component. Okay, so in Western political thought, whenever you're writing the notes, for example, if Aristotle or Plato is there, then immediately take only two or three important quotes of Plato and Aristotle there. Use those quotes frequently everywhere in GS3, GS2, GS4, and then political science. So by frequently using them, it will come naturally to you whenever a question is being asked. So that is first thing, quotes. And then examples. Whenever you're reading them, think how they are applied in the contemporary era. Like for example, Aristotle education is there. He emphasizes that education should be something that should be or languages should be taught in the very early stage. If you see the new education policy now, that is the same thing, right? So link this way, but don't link it arbitrarily. Okay, don't link it to something else which might appear absurd for the invigilator. Link it in a logical way to the contemporary side. Similarly, for the Plato, there is a philosopher king concept. So think who is a philosopher king in the present era or very close to that. For example, Ayatollah Khamenei is one kind of such example. So write that, but don't say he's directly the philosopher king. He's not. So explain him. He is somewhat the close example or what I can find related to the philosopher king. So this way, try to link it with the contemporary era. So first quotes, and then contemporary examples, and then the third thing is link this Western political thought with the other sections of the syllabus of PSIR. Okay, this is very, very important. Interlinking is very important, and this is the reason why I said that you have to read like the entire PSR notes in the first 7 days. So with that, you will understand it. If not, if you have it, if not, you have a deeper knowledge, at least you will know what is there in each syllabus, so that you can start interlinking when you start reading. Okay, so these are the three parts. So this way, start with first Western political thought, and whenever you are preparing for PSR, also prepare a plan, like how much time you are going to devote for Western political thought, Indian political thought, and each subsection of the syllabus. And try to read and make notes only in that particular time. Don't end up wasting most of the time in Western political thought and Indian political thought. So that is Western political thought. Next thing is Indian political thought. And one more thing for Western political thought, once you have a basic understanding and you have read the notes, now you want something like value enrichment or value addition. So for these kind of things, refer to the IGNO books. IGNO books are the best source. So you have this MPS course in IGNO, okay? So you can straight away directly download them, and there are Western political thought, and there is PDF for each of these thought leaders, each of these thinkers. So you can straight away pick the quotes and important examples and historical things from that IGNO and add it to your notes. So this is a kind of value addition, but don't do it in the first go itself. First, prepare a basic foundation. Have a basic reading of the notes you have. Then, as a value addition, go for this. Okay, so that is Western political thought. Coming to Indian political thought, usually we have a very less information available on Indian political thought. So for Indian political thought, apart from the notes, you have to do a bit research. For example, Ardhashastras and Dharmashastras are not that discussed well, or we don't have good content about it. So try to do this on your own, because this is where you will get extra advantage. If you see the other students, most of them will rely only on the notes. So you will also be writing the same content what others are writing. But in Dharma Shastras and Artha Shastras are the areas where if you research a bit more, you can get more marks. For example, if you research Artha Shastra in Google, like you get an PDF where a deeper study was made on Artha Shastra. So after having a basic understanding from the notes, do this research and then make notes out of it. So that is important so that you can use it. Similarly, Dharma Shastras is also something you will not get usually notes from the institute. So do bit research more than what you have in the notes. This way, Indian political thought can be covered. So this is the extra brownie points for your marks. So that is Indian political thought and Western political thought. And the rest of the syllabus, everything, right from ideologies like political theory and then rights, everything of this can be covered from OPGOBA. Okay, don't refer to any other source apart from OPGOBA. But for OPGOBA also, don't go again just by the chapters in the OPGOBA. Take the topic. For example, after Western political thought and Indian political thought, if you are thinking about political theory, then go for the political theory where the political theory is there in OPGOBA. And before that, refer the previous year questions. So you'll have an understanding what are the subsections in political theory. Then now you see the index of OPGOBA book, and then straight away go to there, read the topic comprehensively, and then make the notes. There should be personalized notes of this components. Similarly, political ideologies. Many people say there are certain other books like there is a book by some famous author on political ideologies. You don't need to go that far. This OPGOBA, trust me, is a very good source. If you revise that multiple times, that will be more than enough. You don't need to go for multiple sources for the same topic. Okay, so that is about part A. And part A is, again, if I have to emphasize on something in the paper one part A, don't spend much time on this. First thing. Second, make brief notes. Like for every ideology, you need to know the scholar and their ideas. For example, if we see Locke, then what are the Locke's main ideas, like main books? You need to know certain important data or kind of factual information. For example, if you are writing Locke, apart from writing the idea, you also, if you can quote the book name where he has mentioned this idea, that will get you more marks. Okay, so have a rough kind of A4 sheet and then mention there, like if you keep a John Locke heading, then one or two important quotes of John Locke, and then three or four central ideas of John Locke, and in that where they are discussed in the book and what is the meaning of it in one line, and then followed by examples that you can think that can be applied in the modern world. Okay, these can be used as your introduction or conclusion, and then the body part is same way. Anyway, that is a content that is discussed by the John Locke or in your classroom notes. So this is about political theory. And another important aspect is, again, link the political theory with IGP part. So whenever you are writing political theory, IGP part should come naturally to you. For example, we all say John Locke always says that this sovereign government or people's government is a kind of bedrock, or constitution is a bedrock of the government. Then immediately this is the basic idea that is being reflected in the Indian constitution. So this is something that you have to link. So this way, similarly, if suppose there is democracy, I mean, similarly this JS Mill, I believe, if I'm not wrong. It has been a long, so if I make some like if I cross-link something, please try to read yourself and correct them. So if JS Mill discusses about something like people's democracy or direct democracy, then you link it with the concept of Gram Swarajya or what we have in the Panchayat Raj system, and then write an example of that there. So this way, do the cross-linking. So there are many examples. So like in every political theory, you can get a contemporary example in the IGP part. So mostly link IGP part with the political theory in the paper A, paper 1, part A. So now we'll go with the IGP part. Now for IGP, we have to deal it with a specific focus. Like most of the students, what they do the mistake is like they treat IGP as GS2 paper 2 only. Like they read only Lakshmikant and then straight away dump that. But that is not expected. Even though question appears very simple, you have to write it in a political science language. So here again the cross linking works. So whenever you are explaining a concept in IGP part, you have to bring the theory. I'll quote an example here. Let's say federalism is there. So for federalism, there is a philosophy behind federalism. So that you have to explain first. Then only you can explain the IGP part of federalism or center-state relations. For example, if they ask what are the center-state relations between in center-state relations in India with respect to water disputes. So this is an important area. So here again, you have to quote a little bit about federalism in the introduction, and then jump into the articles, and then the content, and then finally Supreme Court judgments, and then your own conclusion. Or if there is any legitimate author who had made comments in the news editorials, then you can bring them in the middle. So this is how your flow should be. Okay, don't write it as a straight away GS2 answer. So coming back to IGP part, the first part is political strategies for India's freedom struggle. So here again, it is very important that you refer to the Bipin Chandra book. You have this Bipin Chandra book, right? History. So there in the introduction itself, he had made some perspectives. Apart from the notes, I'm suggesting all this as an extra read apart from the notes, okay? Apart from the notes in Bipin Chandra book, in the introduction itself, he had made certain perspectives of Indian national movement. Like what is the Marxist perspective? What are the liberal perspective and all. So try to read them, and even when you're writing in the exam, like for example if you are writing Marxist or uh, other perspective, try to quote examples from the Bipin Chandra's book. So for this, don't read the entire Bipin Chandra book, but just read the introduction pages. So that will be very useful. So that is about perspectives. And then you have constitutionalism to mass satyagraha, all these movements, right? So these movements, you have to read it from a political perspective, not from the historical perspective. You would have already got the content for this, like all this non-cooperation movement. This is nothing but the modern India history itself. Now read it from a political lens, like how this has helped India in transforming movements or in transforming the political leadership. So for this also, questions will help. So that is about uh, this part. And then your perspectives of Indian national movement, which we have just discussed. So this, I think you already have notes. Second thing, apart from notes, refer to the IGNO as well. In IGNO also, they have discussed in detail about the perspectives. And similarly in YouTube, there is a channel called CEC UGC. Okay, CEC UGC. So they also talk, like they are like kind of Delhi or some other professors who discuss in detail about the these things, philosophies and all, but they are very lengthy, like 50 minutes. So if you really feel that is helping you, only refer to such kind of videos. Don't go for every video. Okay, if you type like any syllabus component and then give a space and type CEC UGC, you'll get that particular video. So try to see for the first 5 minutes. If it is helping you, then go for it. So regarding the perspectives, I found that video is very helpful. That is about perspectives. And then you have making of Indian constitution, like all the provisions. Here also, it shouldn't be like historical way. It should be political, more political and social angle should be brought in. How the legacies of British rule have helped India, or how it didn't help India. Both of these should be covered. Like for example, if you see the modern bureaucracy is nothing but a legacy in a good way. But similarly, economic destruction or the conservatism in India with respect to the private industries is nothing but British India, legacy. So these kind of educational policy is a legacy of British India, because earlier we used to have a native education, like education in vernacular language, but now majorly it is dominated by English. So all this have a legacy of British India. So try to find contemporary examples. Yeah, and then you have similarly grassroots democracy, and then statutory institutions. So here one more thing, you might find good notes for rest of the parts, but there are certain weak areas. So instead of focusing equal attention on everything, try to focus on weak areas. For example, most of the most of the people doesn't cover statutory institutions in a greater detail, but this is much needed. And there is a question every year on the statutory institutions, like National Commission on SC/ST, or National Commission on NCBC, and then similarly we have Human Rights Commission. All these commissions are very, very important. Now, where to find political science related information for this? So straight away go to that commission website, and there you have annual reports. So in your annual reports, they will quote the present examples there, like how they solved a case, like how, what is the importance of the commission in that case, how they helped achieve a logical end for that case. All this will be discussed in the report, and also they will highlight what the work they have did in this 1 year. And the last thing is they will criticize themselves in that report. So you have everything covered there. You have the examples, you have the limitations of the commission, and then you have the powers of the commission. And even the concept of that commission, why it came into picture, will also be discussed in the introduction. So straight away make notes from that website. So these kind of information you will not find in any book. So do this research on your own. This will help you very much. But what usually students do is they skip this part because they don't have knowledge, or they will straight away pick it up from the Lakshmikant. We have to go beyond Lakshmikant for IGP part, especially on institutions. Social movements, we have the social movements, that is also not covered well. So I mean, we have the basic notes already here, but we have to go bit beyond than this. That is what I'm suggesting. So that is about IGP. And rest of all, I guess party system, federalism are well covered in the notes, and everything is there. And one more disclaimer, do this kind of extra research only when you have completed the basic understanding. Okay, don't go for extra reading like in the first go itself. You will end up wasting more time. Then we'll come to the comparative politics, paper 2, part A. So here again, timing is very important. If you have like 2 papers, that means you have to devote equal attention to both papers. Don't end up spending 70% of the time only on paper 1. This is what precisely I did in the first attempt. I read 80%, like for 80% of the time I read only paper 1, and for paper 2 I just relied on some international relations knowledge and went there straight away. But that is not something that we have to do if we want a good score of above 300. Okay, focus equal attention. So again, in comparative politics, you have to, here again, you have to link comparative politics theory part with the part B of paper 2, and part B of paper 2 with part A. So here again, it is a part A is the theory part, and part B is the dynamic part. So link both of them. And one more thing here also, you have to have personal notes for each syllabus component. And then comparative politics, I guess it is covered in very detail in both. Like the first part of it overlaps with the political theory. Like in OPGOB also you have some notes like systems, approach and all. So that you would have already covered. But rest of the things, try to read it from the notes. And usually it is very dry. You will not find examples, but you have to create contemporary examples for this section as well. So do that. And then you have key concepts in international relations. This is again very important. So for all of this, again, I'm emphasizing again and again, read the previous year questions that appeared in this syllabus area. Only from that you will know what to read in this key terms. When you say key terms, usually what we do is we read definition, 1 or 2 scholar names, and then we straight away start reproducing. But the questions are completely different. They are trying to see how you can apply these key concepts or theories in the present context. For example, last year when I wrote this political science paper, they've asked how nuclear deterrence theory is valid in India-Pakistan relations. So this is how you have to link. So India-Pakistan relations was in the current news, and theory was there in the part A of paper 2. They have linked both. So this is how you have to link when you are reading itself, so that there will not be any surprises in the final exam. Okay, so do this when you are reading for suppose liberal approach in international relations. Think, is there liberal approach, is liberal approach right now relevant or not relevant? If somebody asks a question, is liberal approach relevant when there is a multipolar world in the 21st century? Then you have to think and prepare your answer accordingly while you are reading itself, so that if you get a question, then you can straight away answer it. So that is about paper A. And for paper A as well, the notes is enough. And for the globalization and the other parts, like other theory parts, if you don't have enough information, then again, if you type in the Google and research, you will get certain articles and you can make notes. That is one thing. So what I will also try to do is, I made this time for the second attempt, I made good notes for weaker areas and like wherever I found bit less information. So if I have time in the next couple of weeks, like in 15 days, I'll try to upload my notes as well. So if you find relevant, then kindly you can use. Again, then coming back to the paper 2 part B. So paper 2 part B is completely dynamic. So way to read this again. So no amount of magazines or no amount of notes will be enough for this. Okay. So always try to read the editorials. And here I would strictly suggest you to read Hindu editorials and Indian Express editorials if you are a political science student. These two are enough. Don't go for any think tanks. These two are very much enough. But you have to identify which scholar is a specialization in which area. So I will highlight some, but this is something you have to develop on your own. So whenever you're reading an editorial in Hindu, first you have to see who is writing this editorial, and then type or search about him in the Google. Try to know his profile. For example, Happyman Jacob is there. If you see his name, then automatically you should think that he is an expert in national security, and usually he talks about India Pakistan relations. He's an expert in India Pakistan relations. So this is something it should strike you. If you have this, then you don't even need to make the notes. You can automatically write his point of view in the answer. Like you can straight away say, like Happyman Jacob, who is an expert in national security, says this, something kind of this. And another important thing, excessive quoting of scholars is also not needed in the exam. Trust me, I thought that while I was preparing that I will quote at least one or two scholars in every answer, but in the final mains, like an optional paper, I didn't quote even one scholar because there was no context. Don't put them artificially. Only if it suits in the context, only then put the scholar name. You can write scholar's view as your own view also. Okay. And also, don't try to remember the exact words written by the scholars. You can paraphrase it, you can interpret, and you can say this is what he said like this, something kind of this. Okay. Or an international expert feels that this way. So this is the words you can use and you can reproduce. Don't try to kind of by heart these kind of scholar statements. Okay. So that is about international relations. So as I said, read first who is writing the editorial and try to know a brief profile about them. So I'll quote some of them. For example, C. Rajamohan is there. So usually C. Rajamohan is considered to be a kind of realist or a kind of functionalist. Realist. So you have to know like under which theory he falls in. So when you're writing theory, then you can straight away write scholar name. He thinks this way. Similarly, there is Suhasini Haidar who writes in Hindu. She's a kind of functionalist, and she's a pro for SARC kind of thing. This also you should know. Like she stands for SARC. She wants SARC integration and all. So you should know this. Similarly, who is opposite now to Suhasini Haidar? And one more mistake, don't try to get three or four scholars views on same topic. Try to take only one scholar view. For example, Suhasini Haidar is there and there are other three scholars who support SARC, but take only one. Okay. And now take the opposite view, who is actually not supporting SARC. C. Rajamohan doesn't support SARC. He says SARC is brain dead and he wants BIMSTEC as alternative. So this is a counter view. So if you write these two views in your answer, then that's it. You will get most of the marks. So this way, try to read a brief profile about scholars and try to see what they are suggesting. This way, you'll automatically know where to fit those scholars. So Rajamohan is one, Suhasini Haidar is one, Happyman Jacob, and then you have a nuclear specialist like Rakesh Sud. Rakesh Sud is very famous in nuclear side. And similarly, in Indian Express, there are a couple of others like Muhammad Ayub. You will see him in the theories as well, in the third word realism. So he also writes. So Muhammad Ayub articles also. So this is not something you need to note down. If you start reading even from now, every day, these Indian Express and Hindu editorials, which are related to international relations, you will know which scholar is writing about what and what is his thought process. So you can automatically make notes under your part B of paper 2. So this way, collect the notes for this. Second thing, don't go directly after editorials. Try to see if it fits in your syllabus component. If it fits, then under which part it fits. So try to see this and make a linkage. So that is about paper 2. So here I will stop, and I don't know whether we have time or not, because I've asked only for 30-minute session, but it is already 40 minutes. So one more thing, test series is very important. So that is choice that you have to make. So, but write lot of tests on political science. And as I said, first initially read for 7 days the entire notes that you have for the political science, and then after that read according to the test. For example, sectional test will be there, or usually, ma'am, what CSB does is they will segregate like 3 subsections of the syllabus under one day, and they put a test on that. So take that test seriously, or any test that for that matter, and prepare that syllabus in detail. Then first you had a bird eye kind of view in the 7 days. Now you are preparing according to the test. So you should regularly write the test, so that by the end of the last test you will be covering the entire syllabus in detailed manner, and after that one revision is enough. So try to take at least, if possible, one test is compulsory, and if you have time you can take at least two test series. So that is what I can suggest for political science. And test series is very important. No matter how much knowledge you have, it is all about reproducing. So how well you reproduce is what is important, because everyone reads from the same notes and we all have the same kind of information, but it's about writing, how you write your introduction, how you write the structure and all. Third thing, in Hindu, I guess it is Friday or Saturday, they have a book review section. So whatever the important books that are coming in that week, they'll give a review about it. So don't read the book, but read the review and make notes, so that you can quote directly the latest books in your answer. So that is again value addition, provided you read already the basic thing from the notes. How many marks we need to get in PSAR paper out of 500? See, ideally, if you get above 300, you'll be there in the list for sure. And optional is the very important part in your entire marks. So if you are someone who can score up to 320, then you will be in the top 100. Okay, so first aim for 300, and once you're at 300, then do these kind of value additions, improve your answer quality, and then aim for 320. So usually 320 to 330 is the highest top score in PSAR. That is something very much achievable, and every year people are scoring it. 285 is the average, so 285 should be your minimum, and 325 or 330 is the maximum, or there is no limit for the maximum. If you are preparing for 2021, when should we take test series? So first have a complete reading of the entire syllabus first. Whenever you're done that, then start taking the tests. But again, don't go on reading those notes. Have particular plan. Like if you are planning to read it in 3 months, then have a time limit, and you have to complete the notes in 3 months. Even if you don't complete that, start the test series. Okay, don't keep postponing the test series because you haven't completed the notes. Ideally you should complete the notes and then start the test series, but even if you complete 70%, you can start the test series. Is statistical information is needed for IR? See, statistical information is not needed, but there are certain approximate informations. For example, if there is a bilateral trade between India and US, you should know whether we have trade surplus or trade deficit. If trade surplus, if it is suppose $43.7 billion, don't write it as exact numbers. Approximate it. 43 is nothing but very close to 45 or 50. So you can write a word called about. The bilateral trade surplus of India with US is about $50 billion. So this is how you can approximate it and use the word about and can write. So this is how you have to use the statistical information, and don't go for inner details. For example, in the bilateral trade itself, don't go for like what is the contribution of IT services, what is the contribution of manufacturing. So these kind of details you don't need. Statistical information is only needed regarding like what is the bilateral trade amount, whether we have trade surplus or trade deficit, what are the important deals, what are the important agreements. Here again, as I said, it should be relevant. If you are quoting any contemporary example, it should be relevant. And many suggest that you should keep paper one as completely static part or theory part, but it is up to you guys. Like, try this experiment in your test series. Based on the feedback, then you can incorporate in the final test series. But what I did is, whenever I find it is relevant, I used to quote the contemporary examples. How to collect relevant examples? You have to study, and when you're studying, you have to think. You have to think how it is applicable. If you are studying political Plato, you have to think why Plato is suggesting this, why we are reading Plato even now. If you think this, then you'll automatically know the contemporary examples. Think, always think while you are reading. I have zero knowledge, but I'm tensed getting a clear idea and unable to put my thoughts on paper. Suggest to how to improve. See, first of all, it is all anxiety and fear. Okay, nobody, I mean, everyone will have this kind of fear seeing the political science syllabus and the vast amount of reading that we have to do. But first, start somewhere. If you start Western political thought, automatically your doubts will get clarified. You will know what to read, what not to read, and all. So don't be in a kind of panic situation, like you have to read all these and all. So if you take a baby step, then you'll automatically figure out. So start reading. So that is the best way to do. And then, any strategy for GS papers? We we can't have this session for GS right now. We are discussing political science. So GS, the main suggestion is do as many tests as possible, work on the analysis of the tests, and make again personalized notes for each syllabus component of the GS syllabus. How many months editorial reading is enough for writing mains? Like, there is no particular amount. From the day one you start preparation, you have to read the editorials. But that's okay. If you are not someone who have read, at least from now, read it. Read the editorial, and don't read every editorial. Read only which are important, or which will be beneficial for you in the international relations. And don't make notes on the first reading itself. Try to read it for 7 days. Once you have an comfort with the editorials, then you start making notes. So your score in PSR, still the marks are not yet out. So for the second attempt, I don't know. For the first attempt, I got 280. And I got 155 in paper 2, but 120, 125 in paper 1. Role of handwriting. There is no role of handwriting. So, like, you will not get any brownie points for good handwriting. You will not get any negative points for the bad handwriting. Usually, like, I have seen many toppers in political science, their writing is not at all good. You will not understand many things from their answer sheet, but still they have scored 320, 325. So writing is not something they will, I mean, they are paid to sit, and they have this patience to read answer in detail, and they'll award you. So don't worry about much about handwriting, but it should be legitimate. It shouldn't be something like a rough notes. You can't, you should respect the paper. So it should have a proper margin, and it should have certain kind of alignment, so that you have to maintain. But handwriting is not that important. What is the source of committee reports data? Again, for committee reports, don't go extensively. Like, only focus on important committees. Like, for example, if you talk about federalism, or if you have talk about governor role, then we have kind of 3 committees, famous committees: Rajmannar, and then Sarkari Commission, Punchi Commission. So just know the difference. Don't quote Punchi Commission in Sarkari and Sarkari Commission recommendations in Punchi. Okay, this kind of clarity you have. And how to revise, some revision tips. Revision tips, yeah, as I said, first do kind of bird eye view reading. Like, you read completely, like, complete topic in kind of fixed time limit. You will not go for a detailed reading. This is a kind of breadth reading. Then, after having a comprehensive understanding, then you go for a detailed reading. While you are going for a detailed reading, write the tests. So this way you will know which are your weak areas, which are your strong areas. How to remember committees for main parts of the syllabus? Try to note down all the committees in an A4 sheet, and then try to write the committee main recommendation, which area, and then see it for 10 or 15 days every day. You'll automatically remember. Flowcharts or diagrams in PSIR. See, again, PSIR is mainly a humanities paper. It should ideally be paragraph based, and it should be kind of theory kind of thing. So try to avoid flowcharts or diagrams. But if you think it fits exactly in the context, for example, if you are discussing Plato's education policy, then you have this small diagram, right? A table where it is divided according to the age, and then the specific function of it is discussed. There you can use the diagrams. Similarly, if you are explaining, like in OP-GOBA, there are many diagrams. Again, this is also very important. In OP-GOBA, there are many small flowcharts. So use those flowcharts, practice them and use them, because he discusses them in very detailed manner. For example, if somebody was talking about ideas between Thomas Hobbes, Locke, and J.S. Mill, he'll give an tree kind of diagram, like Thomas Hobbes, what is the central idea, what is the difference, what is this kind of thing. So try to develop those flowcharts and you can use them in your exam. But for international relations and all, don't try to use these flowcharts. Okay. Can we answer in point wise or paragraph? See, most of your answer should be in paragraph for political science at least, because you are discussing theory. How can you write points in your theory? It should be like a proper explanation, right? And there should be also a flow between paragraph to paragraph. But there are certain areas in international relations. For example, if someone asks you, make a short notes on India's interest in West Asia, this is something you can make it in a point way, point form. Like you can straight away say energy interests, political interests, and then cultural interests, diaspora interests. So under each subheading you can write those interests. So if they are asking straight away, list them, then you can write it in a point form. But if not, most of the portion you have to write in the paragraph form. Is it necessary to read every topic from every thinker? It's so huge. How can we remember such a vast syllabus? See, again, here, as I said, your previous year questions is your guide. So see that if it has been already asked, then only read them, and also keep a time limit. So if you, for example, in a day, or for example, you have 3 months for your optional study, 1.5 month for paper one, and 1.5 month for paper two. In 1.5 month again, like roughly 45 days for part A. So in 45 days, now you have to plan for each syllabus component. So this way, you will read only what is needed. So try to restrict yourself by keeping this plan or time limit. Is there any book that explains the political science in simple manner rather than a complex way? See, political science itself discusses about humans. Humans are the complex creatures. So no book can simplify this. You yourself have to simplify this. And no one book can cover entire political science. That is impossible. So try to understand the concept. Try to have the conceptual clarity. First, madam notes, completing the notes itself will take most of your time. First, do that. Do that revision of that notes as well. Only once you are done that, then you're confident of scoring 285 to 300. After that, do these value additions, what I have suggested. Okay. Don't do this on the first go itself. As I said, have a basic foundation, complete it, write a test series. While writing the test series, you will feel this and then start making the refinement of those notes. But this year prelims according to you? See, uh, first thing, always remember there. I mean, seeing the last 2 years or 3 years trend, like if you go only if you go only behind the standard books, or if you read only what is there in the market, like the common list for the books, not expect to clear the prelims. You have to go beyond that. Nowadays, prelims is becoming more dicey, and they're focusing. Actually, UPSC is trying to break this books thing. Like if you read, like many of us suggest that these books are important for prelims, but those books are important only for the foundation level. You have to see how it can be applied. For example, the main example is here. Like if you see the corona news, most of us would have focused only on corona and what is there, what are the Atmanirbhar package and all. But actually UPSC focused on the vaccines technology, like what vaccines technology is being used. So this is how you have to read. Whenever you read a current event, don't go on that, but go beyond that. What is the concept, what is the applied part of this, or how it will be useful in the administration. If you think this, then you can solve most of the questions in prelims. Another example is public key infrastructure. Public key infrastructure is an important component in present day administration. Like if you know, now bureaucracy is trying to incorporate the digital knowledge, or kind of they are shifting to digital domain. So for that, public key infrastructure is very very important. So you should know these kind of things. Similarly, last year there was a question on digital signature, because nowadays everyone is going into e-office mode. So for to e-office mode, you need the digital signature. If you see the Me Seva certificates, all of them are signed by digital signature. So if you are seeing the trends in the practical interactions or in the newspaper, you have to research a bit about it, or you have to think how you can bring technology into your administration. If you start doing this exercise, then you'll automatically get benefited out of it. And the third thing is, like only 30 or 40 questions can be solved from your main knowledge base or direct factual knowledge. Rest of all have to be on your logical skills, so that you can develop only by practice. So the key is practice again, anywhere in the optional, mains, or in the prelims.